Welcome to Too Old, Too New, the music discovery podcast that brings you something old, something new, something Nate, something Bruce. I'm Nate Runkle, host of the Yo That's My Jawn podcast, and with me, as always, is my good friend Bruce Warren of WXPN. The premise of our show is simple. Each week, we bring you two songs apiece. One new song that has been metaphorically spinning our turntable platters, and one old song that we believe still absolutely matters. He did it!
Good job, man. I like that. You finally made it through without stumbling.
And then I ruined it by cheering. Whatever.
That's right. You're a professional, Nate, man. You got your shit together. It's good. It's all good. It's all good.
Right. How we doing, my friend?
We're doing great. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. You guys awoke a sleeping giant this weekend, my friend, and that is I got to put an entry in for your 24-hour songwriting challenge, and I haven't written a song in like 4 years, and it felt great.
Well, I'm glad we were able to get you back into it for a while. Yeah, it was pretty exciting. Now we have to sit through some absolutely 312 submissions, original songs. Now the hard part is judging them all, and we'll see what happens. But very stoked about it. So I'm glad you contributed, though.
I do not envy you. I do not envy Mike. I do not envy Heather, and I do not envy the great Don T as a judge. How did you guys pull that off?
Well, we just said, who should we, like, what amazing person in our music community should we call on to help judge this thing? And it was John Batiste who said, let's see if Don T is interested. And we reached out, and Don T was interested. So very excited. Now that Don is through the Roots Picnic, we'll be able to get her to focus on helping us find some unbelievable songs. So very excited that Don T is a part of our judging committee as well.
I love it. I love it. You got a lot of new songs to go through there. I hope to hear at least one of them, mine, as your pick for your new song next week. But on to the topic at hand. Let me share my new song this week. And I've been saving this as timeliness because she's coming to town this Saturday to the Wayne Music Festival, and my song is a selection by Margaret Glaspy from the EP that she released recently, and it's her song "Bathtub." I was a enormous fan of her album Echo the Diamond last year. I think it was number one or number two on my top 30 list. I think it was number two. It was my most played album last year. I listened to it obsessively. I saw her when she came to Underground Arts. She's just a special, phenomenal talent, an incredible guitar player, an incredible writer, and her voice just absolutely slays me. This EP was all acoustic, and it's so intimate and so beautiful. It almost feels like I'm intruding on her emotions at times, and I feel like this song, Bathtub, perfectly kind of encapsulates what that EP sounds like. So let me play a little Bathtub by Margaret Glaspy. If all of my failures were dimes, I could fill up a bathtub. I mean, come on.
That is a ridiculous line. I mean, seriously, that's just like incredible.
Like, you write that line and you like put the pen down and you go, fuck yeah, I did it. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
See you later. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
So she's playing the Wayne Music Festival this weekend. I hope to be able to get it. I'm going on a fishing trip, but hopefully I'll be back in time to catch her set. But super excited for that.
Yeah, great performer, and a wonderful person as well, and that's equally as important.
I don't doubt it. How about you? You have a very nice spin on new this week. Why don't you tell everybody about your new?
I have. Yes, I definitely. New music can take the form of actual just released music. It could also take the form of like new to me, but it came out 100 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 30 years ago. And that's where I'm going this week. In fact, I texted you yesterday, remember? And after I put my eyes on the Paste magazines, not to be outdone by Apple, this week Paste magazine released their 300 greatest all-time albums. And there were a bunch of albums on there that I did not know. And after doing a little R&D, I was like, oh my God, I just discovered some of the best new music, but it wasn't new music. There were records that were made in the 90s. And in fact, my first choice for new was a record that was made in 1974. So Do you want to break down? Do you want to talk about the pace thing, or should I? Or do you want to? No, let me play this first.
Yeah, play your song first, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Because I got okay. You're not going to be surprised by this, but I got notes.
Okay, all right. So I know you always got notes, Nate. That's why I love you. You're the best. Okay, so coming in at number 281 on the Pace 300 was a record by a South Korean guitarist, producer, and singer-songwriter who, according to Wikipedia, is the Korean godfather of rock. He's still very much alive at 86 years old. He's had a very storied life. He's won numerous Korean music awards from the late 50s when he started writing until his retirement in 2006. This record came out in 1974. The name of the musician is Shin Joong Hyun, Hyun, and he plays with his band called the Yup Junes. And my apologies if I'm mispronouncing their name. So this record, self-titled Shin Joong Hyun and the Yup Junes, came out in 1974, and it is a blues rock record. And there are elements of psychedelia on it. It is sort of like if Elmore James met the Meat Puppets in some crazy, crazy bar somewhere not in America. So let's listen to a little bit of this. It's called Long, Long Night.
It's absolutely gnarly, man. I was not ready for the change. When I was putting the clips together and that change happened, I was like, what? I was like, what? I thought maybe like I got a different song or something, like I skipped the track accidentally. But my God, how phenomenal.
It's phenomenal stuff. And I got to say, the last 24 hours, I've just gone deep, deep, deep into the rabbit hole of Shin Joong Hyun. And he's worked with a couple different bands over his time, but ultimately it's sort of about his music, you know? And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is new. It came out in 1974. And, you know, it's funny. I'm always amazed at, not that I know everything about music. In fact, I know very little about music. But I was like in the prime of my high school years back in 74 when this record came out. And I was listening to a lot of blues and a lot of psychedelic music. But there was a reason why I didn't hear this record. And that's because, you know, globalization, like, you know, wasn't like a thing. If we were lucky, we were buying and listening to records that were just being, you know, coming out as the big records in the UK, let alone Korea. I mean, come on. So I'm so happy that I've been personally blessed by hearing this music, because I'm just like, whoa, this is unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, so, you know, you discovered this on the Pace 300. I got to say, first of all, I like this list a lot more than the Apple Music list, mostly because it has personality and it gets weird at times, all right? I don't agree with it, but I don't agree with lists, ever. You know, like, I think it's inherently supposed to make you angry so that you engage with it or whatnot. And there are some things in here that made me angry. There's no, you know, like, the fact that there's no All Things Must Pass. 300 albums better than All Things Must Pass? Get all the way the fuck out of here. But one of the things I really appreciated about this, and I'm going to read it, for what their criteria they said was, and they said, for this list, we called on our entire writing cohort, including editors, staff writers, interns, and freelancers far and wide, to send their individual top 20, and then they took them down and kind of did a little editorial. But the wording that really stuck out to me was, they said, our picks are subjective and we aren't going to sit back and consider this list some end-all be-all document. Truthfully, we had a lot of fun putting this whole thing together and considering what music has been so definitive for us as a publication over the last 22 years. That's all I'm ever asking on these lists, is for people to just say, hey, man, we were just having fun and we put this together. You know what I mean? Like, it's when they start doing these like slow rollouts and it's like the definitive Rolling Stone top 200. Like, that's when I start to like get back on my haunches. But this list is so beautifully weird. You know, there's so many choices in here that just, you know, absolutely confound me. Like, Michael Jackson's Thriller is 121, okay? Behind the Fugees, the score at 120, which is just like, what? That's so weird. And then Velvet Rope, Janet Jackson, is number 17. Like, all of a sudden, Michael's not the biggest Jackson? What are we doing? But I love it.
I had the same reaction about the Janet Jackson record. And I'll point out something else. Fiona Appler's Idler Wheel at 29 is above anything by Neil Young, David Bowie, or Bob Dylan. Now, I love Fiona, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that one,
and
right? So
it's funny you mentioned that because Fiona has 3 songs on here. All right, one of the few artists who have more than two choices on here, and I would have put "When the Pawn" in that spot if we were putting it anywhere, if we were ranking just Fiona albums, right? That "When the Pawn" to me is like a absolute masterpiece, and for some reason I feel like I don't know what happened over the past few years, but we don't talk about John Bryan enough, okay? And John Bryan's production on "When the Pawn" matched with Fiona's songwriting is absolutely phenomenal. It like blows me away, and so the fact that that came in, I don't know, somewhere in the 200s or something like that, you know, up in the land where Jeff Buckley and Liz Phair are at. Get out of here. But all right. But I get it, man. I understand voting and I understand how it works. And the conversations, like you said, the music discovery just from things that you never heard of. There's so many, even in like the top 20 that I've never even heard a single person mention in their life. And that's cool. I think that's cool.
I totally agree. And that's why on some level I love lists, although generally, you know, I'm not a big fan of them. But like you, even though we're responsible for a lot of lists here at WXPN, let's just put it that way. But most of those lists are typically, many of those lists here at XPN are voted on by the audience.
Yeah, don't worry, I blame them too.
That's a whole other
I blame
thing,
them
you
too.
know, that's a whole other thing. All right, so speaking to your point about like there were some things in the top 20 that like you didn't know. Okay, so here's my second choice for new song, although it's a new song that came out in 1996, new to me, by a band called Fishmans, who I had never ever heard of before I saw their album Long Season show up in the top 10 at number 7. I was like, what the fuck? Who is this band? I immediately Googled. And I'm telling you, last 24 hours, I probably listened to all 6 of their studio albums, and I am just in love with this band. So let me kind of tell you a little bit about who Fishmans are. They were together for about a decade, 1987 to 1997. They put out, they're from Japan, massive amount of records, live records, EPs, singles, and then they were fronted by a guy named Shinji Sato, who sadly passed away in 1997, about a year or two after their last record came out. And they were like super nerdy rock and roll band, but they started out as a reggae band. So they dabbled in reggae and dub, and then a very sophisticated pop. There's almost like a Steely Dan vibe to this band, but it's completely warbly. It's like upside down. Anyway, the last 3 records that they put out, 2 in 96 and 1 in 97, are, to most fans that I've read online about, are really like their 3 best albums. And I'm going to play you a song from one of those albums to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what Fishmans sound like. This is Baby Blue. I mean, come on. It's almost like a yacht rock.
Yeah.
It's a total vibe. It's almost like yacht rock. There's a lot of yacht rock elements to this band, but there's also some crazy psychedelic elements to this band. So if you want to check out cool stuff, check out Fishmans. They have a massive amount of music online. And there's also an unbelievable fan wiki that you can find if you Google Fishmans Wiki. It's like kind of mind-blowing how much information there is about this band out there. But again, from Japan, new to me, it's a band called Fishmans and Baby Blue.
That's amazing. Yeah, that blew me away when I saw that was one of the ones that I was just like, who? What are we doing? And then like I listened to it and I was like I was just so like I said, it's just such an interesting list because like, you know, multiple people had to have voted for that. And I had never heard of it.
That's right.
Which makes you go like, holy crap, like what else is out there that I'm missing? You know what I mean? Like I like to think that I know it all. And that's why that's why another reason I like this list is because like it shakes up the kind of stale nature of, you know, what these lists tend to become, right? The number one song or number one album on this is Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. And like, I'm not going to argue that. Like, I believe it. Like, that's just a perfect album. And their description and their write up on it it absolutely sells it as well. You know, like
totally.
And then the other reason I like this list is they corrected some of the injustices from the Apple list. Like To Pimp a Butterfly is much higher than Good Kid, Mad City. There's sanity that exists again. And then there was something else. There was something else that I was just like, that Bitches Brew is above Kinda Blue. So like, thank you so much. You know, you're correcting injustices. But there's one thing I do want to mention, and it happened. I'm glad you mentioned WXPN list because it happened during the 88.5 Greatest Women Countdown, and it happened here. If everybody loves PJ Harvey as much as they say they do, why is she not bigger?
Why?
What are we doing? Like, everybody seems to love her. She had, I think, 3 or 4 albums on this list, yet she's like a hidden secret. I don't get it.
Yeah. I can't explain that. Yeah, she had 3 records on the Pace list. Rid of Me, right? To Bring You My Love, and the City C.
Yeah,
what's the name of that album?
Stories from the City.
Right.
Yep.
That record was on it as well. But it was To Bring You My Love that was the highest placed record. And, you know, in my estimated humble opinion, I think that's like her best album.
Sure.
Although a lot of people love the early, you know, like visceral PJ Harvey. And, I like all her stuff, so I'm really glad they wound up on it. You know what? There was one record though of the names that I did notice. Where is it? Julie Cruz had Julie's record "Floating into the Night." Do you remember who Julie Cruz was? Okay, so do you remember the television show Twin Peaks?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so Julie was like the singer on the Twin Peaks stuff with Angelo Badalamenti, I think his name is. He's like the songwriter or the composer or whatever. I was blown away by seeing this Julie Cruz record. It came out in '89, and I remember I don't think I've listened to this record since it was released. I remember loving it when it came out, but there again, to your point, it's like, wow. This list was put together by music fans, and you can really tell.
Yeah.
You know, if Julie Cruz is going to be on the list, there you go.
I will say one other thing, and this is I've been trying to hold back the old hater Nate. I'm trying to be a new reformed Nate who just enjoys things and lets people like the things they like. But I'm going to say the post Stranger Things Kate Bush resurgence just does not feel genuine to me. Like, I don't think these people actually like Kate Bush as much as they say they do. And I say that as a Kate Bush fan. So it's as nicely as I put it.
All right. Okay.
So my old pick, let me jump and keep it going. I don't know how many people are familiar with the band Spymob. Spymob was a band, I believe, out of Minneapolis. They put out an album, or they tried to put out an album that just didn't come out because they got held up in record shenanigans between Arista and Star Trek, which was Pharrell's album. And the reason I mentioned Star Trek and Pharrell is because Spymob was the backing band for the early NERD albums. Okay,
that's right.
They were In Search of, Fly or Die, and Eric Fawcett, the drummer, played on like Drop It Like It's Hot. So like did a lot of work. Brent Paschke, who plays guitar in Spymob, still to this day plays with Pharrell. I think he was on that Virginia project that Pharrell released this year. But Spymob themselves, you mentioned Steely Dan earlier. They have a very kind of Steely Dan vibe to themselves, and their lyrics are so sardonic and ironic, much like Steely Dan. And I love them so much. They had this album, the one that was held up, that I had forever, and Sitting Around Keeping Score, I believe is the name of it. And I bought it when I saw them at the Sprite Liquid Mix tour. NERD was the headliner, but Spymob was playing the side stage at like 1 o'clock or something like that. And I knew that this was the backing band for NERD. So I was over there. There was no one there. And I remember talking to the guys and I was like, my God, you guys are about to be the headliners and no one's here and no one knows. And they're like, yeah, it kind of is like, the gift and the curse. Like we want people to be here, but it's also kind of cool that we get to kind of relax and all. And I got to have them on the podcast, That's My Jawn, and I got to tell them how important I think the NERD stuff was and how much I love their stuff. And I just blabbered so much just to say, here's I Still Live at Home by Spymob. There's these lush strings. It's the instrumentation and the songwriting is so beautiful. And it's literally a song about a guy who met a girl through a dating service and needs to tell her that he still lives at home. And if things go well, we can go upstairs and you can meet my folks. Like, it's just, it's so great. They have a song that's told from this perspective of their dog sleeping at the foot of your bed, excited to go outside. There's a song about divorced parents sharing visitation rights with their kids. Like, it's just absolutely amazing. And the musicianship in that band is otherworldly.
So what's the name of the album again?
I believe it's Sitting Around Keeping Score.
Okay, Sitting Around Keeping Score. Because I'm looking at the streaming services right now. There's not a lot of records on this, which is very interesting. So I'm gonna have personally. I loved I was familiar with the band, but I never really spent much time listening to them. So I'm gonna have to. I'll have to suss that one out. Definitely.
Yeah, check that first album out.
Yeah.
So there's our selections for the week. We did it.
Yeah.
As always, you can find both of us on the socials. You can find me at That's My Jawn, and you can find Bruce at Some Velvet Blog on all of the socials. Plus, you can find Bruce on WXPN every Saturday from 10 to 2 p.m. And you can find me on Why Not Radio from 5 to 8 p.m. on Mondays. Plus, the That's My Jawn podcast. Great episode this week with Alex Wash of the band Grand Dogs. I don't know if you're familiar with Grand Dogs. Another great piano-based band. Love the hell out of them. And they have a submission in the song contest as well. Hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. Here's an idea for you. You guys should put on a song contest showcase night. Think about that. It's on my famous whiteboard here in my office. That idea is there. You go. So if it's a good idea after, and we still like the idea after a couple weeks, it stays on the board. I love it. Bruce, thank you so much for doing this, and everybody, thanks for tuning in.